Buddy, this is early Friday, May 24th for both Uncle Pete and me. And he's going to yawn first, and then he's going to talk to us about scanning to PDF function, right?
Yeah. Exactly.
What is this? Thanks to Dan for getting you to do this?
Yes, Dan Mattis. Yeah, Dan's one of the guys that has picked up that while he's working on his app, there's little bits and pieces that he can pawn off on me and get me to develop for him quicker and cheaper than spending the time to do it himself. So he was trying to get this scan to PDF working, was having a bit of trouble, and asked me to take a look at it for him, and only took me an hour to put it together since I really had all the pieces. I just had to pull them out of my image viewer component and put them in a separate little function. So, it worked out good. Dan got a function, and, I got an hour available time. And then Dan was gracious enough to say, sure, go ahead, release it open source and let the rest of the world play with it and have it. So y'all can thank Dan for providing this function to the open source community for you.
Clap, man. Hey, you know what? Maybe we could get Wolfgang to pawn off his homework. We'll talk about that at the end.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so Uncle Pete, you go for it.
Wolfgang has to walk the walk of shame.
No, he tried.
Yes, if he didn't get it done, it's tough. He's a smart guy. All right, so like we were saying, this is it's a pretty simple little function. Its entire purpose is just so that in your application, a lot of applications you just need a quick scan to PDF. For instance, Dan's application is basically a distribution application, and they keep spec sheets on all the products and stuff. And a lot of those he sources digitally to start with, but sometimes he'll get a product that just has a spec sheet in the packaging. And they had someone that would sit there and scan that, save it off somewhere, import that into the system. And he was trying to incorporate that in so they could just do it from their desktop. And basically it's just hey, I need this turned into a PDF, and then from there, once you have the PDF file, you can link it to whatever you need to inside your app with whatever logic you already have to link images to your inventory records or whatever. So that's all it is. The beauty of it is that it is all pure WinDev code, no ActiveX's, nothing crazy or hairy at all, which is really nice. Not having to introduce an ActiveX to your development world. Trust me.
Nice.
Anytime you can avoid that, it's a good day.
Hey, Pete, is this applicable just to WinDev or WebDev also?
It's be a WinDev for the simple fact that I don't know that the twain commands are available from the web. Mm-hmm. I would suspect that they are not.
Bummer.
But to be honest with you, I've never played with that.
Okay.
So let's see it in action here. And this is just a little test screen of the function, so don't knock off points for the pretty interface. If one of the parameters of the function is whether you want to see the scanner setup screen or not, and whether or not you want to view the PDF after it's scanned. So then you just click Scan to PDF, and since I said show the viewer window, we get, now this is whatever twain software your scanner has is what that fires up. So whatever your scanner is will totally affect this. And that's one of the downsides of dealing with Twain, is everyone implements Twain to their own thoughts process behind it. HP is notorious for building image editing and just entire application suites inside their Twain driver. But I have some opinions on Twain, so let's not get me off on a tangent. So now we just scan.
So what's your opinion on Twain? No, I'm kidding.
Best thing since sliced rotten apple bread. And my my scanner is just a little single sheet feed, so I don't get multiple pages. But if I had a scanner that would pull in more than one page, I would have gotten more than one page. But as you see, it scanned the image and then turned it into a PDF and put it up on the screen for us. So that's what we're going to look at the code to do. No oohs and ahs of amazement. Come on, that was cool. Wow. Yeah, well, that's all the effort you're going to put into it.
Well, damn straight.
Okay, so here's the only code behind our demo window.
Hey, Steve gave you a clap, man. I mean, what can we say?
There we go.
Well, maybe if I put Andy's voice on, he might give you a too.
No, please don't put Andy's voice.
Oh, sorry, too late.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So, morning, Andy.
Good morning.
Thanks for eventually joining us. So this is the function call. As you see, all it's doing is calling the function I've written. This is that checkbox to whether or not we show the scanner software, and then just the name that we want the resulting PDF file to be. And then this really isn't part of the actual function, but the other checkbox for view the PDF, if you turn that on, we just do a shell execute with that file name, and it will open up that PDF in whatever your Windows PDF viewer is. So that's all. I'm done. That's the code.
All right. Early morning. We're out of here.
Yeah. Well, maybe you want to see the actual code of the function. Let's go look at that. Still not a lot of code. So we just start off with the total pages. I've started off with one page. Now I'm deleting, I name these pages as I scan 1, 2, 3, 4, and I'm putting them in whatever your Windows temp directory is. The reason that I'm putting them there is you'll run into folks that have got the UAC of Windows cranked way up, and if they do, the only place that you can write a file pretty much is the Windows temp directory. So that's the reason for using the ftemp path, which is whatever the Windows temp directory is. The reason I am deleting them at the start instead of at the end of my process is in production, using this code, not exactly, but where I pulled this code from my image viewer component that I use in production, we ran into some issues with when you were previewing a report that we had printed images on. If we deleted them as part of the process, the preview would lose them. They would get chopped off. I would get the same page printing multiple times. a lot of weirdness. So instead, I just leave them out there until the next time you scan. And the first step I do is clean up whatever was out there from the previous time. So now we get into the actual native twain function, which is twain to PDF. And let's hit F1 and look at the help for that. Now there are also twain to GIF, twain to JPEG, twain to clipboard, and twain to control. Twain to control may be new. I'm using bitmaps. You know, none of them are going to be high quality, but for document storage type stuff, bitmap is just fine. As you saw, that first parameter is the we tell it whether we want to see the scanner software or not. Type of image, you can tell it to be black and white, RGB, what have you, and the number of bits, which is the controls whether it's a 64-bit image or just grayscale or black and white, which is all going to affect the resulting size of your image, as well as resolution, contrast, brightness, duplex mode. Lots of these are pretty standard options that you get when you're scanning. So let's go look at what I've done. Is now again we're putting them in that Windows temp directory. We're naming them scan, and then a number which represents that page. So we started out with 1. So the first time through this loop, it's going to scan page 1. And then it's going to show the interface based on whatever that setting was. I'm doing black and white because I'm doing this for document storage. And that one there represents that black and white setting. 300 is resolution. Back up to C. 300 is resolution. And then for contrast and brightness, I just have those set to 0, which means don't do anything, take whatever's coming at you. Duplex mode turned off, and automatic loading is true, which that's the multiple page so that it comes back through, and if you've got a sheet feeder for your scanner, it'll scan multiple pages. So what this does is it will keep going. This twain to PDF is basically like once it fails, it'll break out of this loop.
You said twain to PDF, but you said it's
bitmap. I'm sorry. Yeah, it functions like a loop. It'll try to scan, and then we'll increase the pages by 1, and then if the twain state, which that's going to return to us, is there still something to scan. Let's see what the Fringlish explanation of twain state is. Returns the status of the current source. Well, there you go. What more you need? Yeah, which basically just tells you whether this twain driver failed or not, is what that statement's doing. But what's going to happen here, you're going to scan your first page. It's going to be named scan1.bmp. It's going to loop back up, and it's going to try to scan again. Well, if there's no more pages in your scanner, this is going to return a false. And when it returns a false, that's going to break out and then go into our code to actually turn the thing into a PDF.
Hey,
so
Pete,
if
wait.
we had,
Pete,
yes.
am I recording this? Yes, I am. Go ahead.
Wow.
I want to ask you about this complete dir. Is that like part of a string manipulation library? Like where
No, that's a
backslash?
standard WinDev function. It's a standard WinDev function that will automatically put a backslash on the directory if it doesn't exist.
Okay, cool. Thanks.
So at this point, if we had 10 pages sitting on our scanner and we hit the button, we would now have in our Windows temp directory scan 1.bmp, scan 2.bmp, up to scan 10.bmp. And that's where we are at this point. So now all we want to do is turn those into a PDF file. So I turn the hourglass on just to let them know that I'm out there working. And then at the very end, we'll turn the hourglass back off. I decrease the pages by 1 because when this thing gets done, it's the way I've got the loop set up, it's going to have already incremented. So at this point, if we had 10 pages, total pages would be 11. So I decrease it by 1 so that it's now the right number. And as long as we have pages, then we print out, we tell it to do our report. iParameter sets up some parameters of printing. We're saying to use the default printer and to use letter size paper. In production, I had some issues when they scanned stuff legal size that I had to do some playing and tinkering around with these to support. But for most of the world, scanning 8.5 by 11 is where you're going to spend your time. Then what makes it go to a PDF instead of being a report that you see or anything is the iDestination. And all I'm doing is saying iDestination, PDF, and then the name of the file that you said this is where you want the PDF to be stored. Now, there are 2 different PDFs. There's iPDF, and let me pull up the help for that one and see what the other one is. I think it's just generic PDF. Yeah, iPDF and iGeneric PDF. The difference between the 2 is one of them is based on the current printer driver. Yeah, iGeneric PDF does not use the current print driver, so that an identical result is guaranteed from one computer to another. I don't know. I played with them quite a bit, and I don't know that I've ever seen any difference between the 2. I think technically you probably should be using iGeneric PDF. Supposedly that's supposed to be a little more transportable one. So all this was doing was setting up the report, and then I actually print the report, and it's called Multiple Images to PDF, very imaginative, and I tell it how many pages I'm going to send it, which is going to be 10 in the example that we're talking about. So now let's look at that report. Kind of a funky looking report. There's nothing on it. The body, there we go. trying to select the body so I can show you the description of it. I have to do it this way. All right. Let's talk about that a second. Just so you know, this is a handy thing to know. Sometimes you have trouble getting the correct control selected, like here, because I've got the body basically non-existent. It's very hard to select. But you can always use your Project Explorer and navigate down and select the control and then do a description there to get to your control. As you see, this body is actually not visible, and I just made it really small. And you're going to see here shortly the reason I did that. Right? And then if we look at the report description, there's no data source. (8.5 by 11) with no borders, because we're doing a full-size scan. And it's set for print on pre-printed form, which basically means don't use any background image or anything. Okay, so now let's look at the code. And the first thing that the code does is issue this iNested header footer true. What that is doing is setting up nested reports so that when I call the next report, that report will be incorporated into this report so that the end result looks like it was all one report. And that's what I'm doing here. Is this report really is just driving another report. And again, the reason I did this in my original one that I'm using at the bank, I tried to just have an image on the body and loop through and change that background. And in production, we had issues with that not always working 100%. And when I moved it out into this logic of having a report that drives another report and doing nested reports, it seemed to be far more reliable. So that's what we're doing.
So that's your
all we're going.
So Pete, that's your tricky way of doing PDF merging, or?
Well, at this point, they're all bitmaps. The tricky thing is to just print the PDF. But yeah, you could use this same concept to merge PDF files as well.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, you're just printing multiple reports, and the end result looks like one report because it's nesting all the reports together. In fact, in my bank application, one of the things they do is they have a invoice print that prints out a sheet from the system, basically a system-generated report of authorizations and due dates and what have you. And then it nests the actual image report into that so that they get a PDF that has like a summary page and then the scanned image of the invoice all in one single PDF. So nested reports let you do some pretty neat things. So all we're going to do is loop through. We know how many pages we got. We passed that in. So we're going to loop through. In the example, if we'd scanned 10 pages, we're going to loop through 10 times. We're going to build that same file name again. Temp directory, scan 1.bmp, 2.bmp, on down the line. And then we're going to print the report. And that report is called just print one page. Again, very imaginative. And the file name that we just created, which image we want it to print. When it's done printing all 10 of them, it does an iPage end, which signifies for this report to end its processing, wrap up, and complete the report. So that's all the code behind this report. Last report to look at is the print one image report. Now this one has a giant body, and on that body is an image control that takes up the entire 8.5 by 11. And that image is set to high quality and homothetic. That's right, I said that. I don't know exactly what it means other than don't stretch my image and make it look funky. I don't know why they didn't call it high quality plus don't stretch my image and make it look funky, because that I would have known without having to do
Because they really want you to learn how to spell it.
Yeah, that's never happening.
What do you mean? It's
The
not
reason I'm using...
Basically, does that mean it keeps the ratio?
It keeps the ratio and makes it big enough to fit inside the image control. So it's going to blow up one dimension to the point of fitting the control. So depending on whether your image is tall or wide, it's going to expand it until it hits that border, and then whatever the other border is,
It is.
it's going to, if you do 100%, it's not going to blow it up. Obviously, 100% centered is just centering the image. Stretched is actually going to stretch it out, which is not what you want. Tiled is just what it says. It's going to show you again and again and again. This is the one we're using.
Why don't you use the center one? Is because you're trying to print it on the left?
Because I'm basically scanning 8.5 by 11s. I don't do that. I think when I played with centered, I ran into problems in production with that causing extra page breaks. In production, we ran into this code is the result of a lot of tweaking in a production environment to get it 100% stable, because they probably scan somewhere in the neighborhood of 5,000 sheets of paper a day at the bank. So
Good Lord.
This thing's been beat up quite a bit. Extended is going to fill the page and basically crop off whatever doesn't fit. And then extended and centered does that same thing, but instead of just cropping one side, it crops both sides and centers it up. And then I'm not sure I fully understand what homothetic without enlargement is.
Looks like a thumbnail, huh?
Yeah, I don't understand what the difference between, if it's not going to enlarge, I guess this may shrink it.
Yeah, it shrinks it, but doesn't make it larger.
Okay, all right. So 100%, if your image was too big, it would just overlap. This is going to force it down until the point that it's
right. It only takes a large image and fits it into your box, but it will take a small image and leave it the same size. And the extended fills to the height of your image and crops off whatever doesn't fit, but keeps the aspect ratio the same. So if you have a certain height that you want to match, you can use that, and whatever doesn't fit gets thrown away side to side.
And then the last checkbox is high quality, and that just controls whether it's a low resolution or a high resolution image that is put on the screen. And that's the only settings that really affect this image. If we look at the report description, again, no data source, nothing fancy here. Again, it's 8.5 by 11 with no margins. And all this stuff is basic settings, no changes there. And if we look at the code, that is the entirety of the code. We passed in the file name we want to print. We set that image control to that file name, and it's going to print that image. And because this report is nested, we're going to get the 10 reports here all into one report, which gets us back to here. We've now got our PDF. Our scan to PDF function is done, which gets us back to here. And now all we're doing is a shell execute to show you that PDF.
Is there a, Pete, is there a built-in PDF reader, or is this depending on the
shell execute app? Depends. Yeah, shell execute uses whatever the default app is.
So is there a built-in PDF reader where I can keep it within my my window, my own window in WinDev?
I haven't been able to, the print previewer seems to be a PDF viewer, but I don't know that there's any way to tap into it. I kind of played with it a little bit when I originally did all this, and really never could tap into it.
Yeah, because a lot of times when you do like RDP and stuff like that, and say you don't want to run it down at the client side, you just want to run it on the server side. It'd be kind of nice to be able to be within its own window in the app.
Right, right. Which the true function is scan. You don't have to use this at all unless you want to look at the PDF. If you're just trying to scan the PDF so that you can store it, attach it to your document storage system or whatever, you never have to open it up and view it.
Yeah, I do.
That's just that's just a little add-on. Now, my production one that I have at the bank is there we had to use an ActiveX because we needed a lot more control, and we were doing multiple page TIFF files, and they need to be able to scan into the middle of a file or delete one page of a file and rotate certain pages of the file. And the other piece of that was the viewing aspect of it. When I originally did the very first native image viewer, I had trouble rotating images of a multi-page file. And the other issue I ran into is I was able to display PDFs through that, but it was painfully slow. When I went to the next page, it was painfully slow, and I suspect what it's doing is it's actually pulling from the file every time. So most of the ActiveXs out there, if you say I need page 10, it can get just page 10. It seemed to me what the native image control of WinDev does is every time you say get something from that image, show me a different page of that image, it goes and rereads that entire image file again so that it can do that. And at the bank, some of the documents they're scanning are 100 pages, and of course they're dragging them across a network, so it was just unusable. So yeah, I have not been able to create a native image viewer that would work in a document storage system. I had to resort to ActiveX to accomplish what I needed there.
Okay.
So there's a scan to PDF function. I will be creating, this obviously is perfect example of something that could be an external component that you just drop on your app, and now you have a scan to PDF function. I will be creating that into an external component and releasing that as part of the open source suite in the coming weeks. If Andy, gives me a second to breathe between Chatterbox and other projects we got going, he's got the whip out pretty hard right now.
The answer was no.
I get to breathe.
Yeah,
Ooh.
exactly. Yeah. We've got a few things going on. So anyway, that's it.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Again,
any other questions?
Dan, all of you, if you use this or you liked it, be sure to pop a message over there on the Skype chat and tell Dan thank him, because he's the one that paid for the original work that went into this and agreed to let it go out as open source. So be sure to thank him as well.
I can say, does anybody really want to be a grasshopper between me and Pete, which is an old adage of almost like a trainee? Holler at us.
Grasshopper. Okay. I'm going to stop the recording now unless there's any questions. Anybody?
Chris is typing.
Okay.
Chris. Great stuff. Just wanted to make sure that we got that on the recording. That it was great stuff.
Definitely, great stuff. We want claps and we want great stuff.
Decent turnout this morning. See, Arl, we can start on time.
We can.
Well, OCR via scan.
Okay.
Let me answer that question real quick. As far as I know, there are no native OCR functions of WinDev, but of course, once you have the image file, if you have an OCR ActiveX or .NET library, you could interface to that and pass the image over and get the text back, and then in your document storage system, marry the two together or something. But as far as I know, there are no native OCR commands within WinDev. Maybe feature 733 of version 19, huh?
So should we ask Wolfgang to explain?
Are we going to do that just on the tap in of this recording?
Yeah, because unless we want a separate recording, I think we can tap it in, don't you think?
I'd like a separate recording so I could carry it around on my phone.
Okay.
Show it to everyone.
Maybe we won't even record it.
Okay, so now that Pete's Uncle Pete's Corner is done, here's Wolfgang with what he promised us he would do from last week.
Okay. Okay. All right.
Well, so what were you going to try and do, and what happened?
Okay. Let me. Do you want to share the screen with me? I'll show you what I've got done.
You want the screen?
Yeah. Let me show you what.
Pete, can you? Oh, so maybe we should make it a separate record. No. Go ahead.
Yeah. I think we're fine. Just tacking on the end of this.
Okay. Share my screen.
Man, I wish I could be a grasshopper.
Okay. Can you see that now?
Mm-hmm.
All right. The problem is we had is that when you target the table, it didn't work. But I've tried something in between. All of a sudden dawned on me there might be another thing you have to activate.
Wolfgang, so what was the purpose of your homework?
Okay. The idea was Peter did the presentation on drag and drop from like example Excel spreadsheet document. You drag it onto the table section and it will drop it into this table. But the problem is that if you misjudge yourself and you drag it off the table, as example, somewhere else, it would then kind of not do the job. Alternatively, bounce open and try and do a separate web page if it was a text file. That's the experience I had. So, example, it was a .txt or a PDF, and you miss the target drop zone. It kind of opens an additional web page with a text file open or the PDF. If your system is set up to open in the browser a PDF or a text file. So it's kind of unintuitive that the person, the end user, will get it maybe every time in there. He knows he has to drag and drop it here, but he doesn't know where the target zone is. And what we're trying to do is something similar to Google. Let me just take Google to the one side. I just want to see if I can quickly open up an email just to show you what we're trying to do. Take it to the one side. Here's my email, and let's say we're going to try and drag or drop. When you drag and drop it over here, you see what happens here. It says drop files here. So it kind of tells you where you must target. If you go out of the target, it tells you no go kind of thing. And over here it shows a little arrow which says there you go. You're in the right spot. And once you let go, it starts downloading the file into your email. And we want a similar kind of end result in WinDev, WebDev. So let's cancel that. And Andy got it all working, that the upload is explained, etc., and it shows nicely, it works. But the problem is it doesn't show where the target zone is. So the idea behind it is what I've got. Let me show you what I've got so far. I managed to get. I wanted to try do the table again, but I haven't tried doing the table. But we can do a quick test now if you want to. But what we've done is, let's just say go, and we run it. Continue, and there you go. Right. At this moment in time, if I go and drag the spreadsheet thing, it will go over here, but it doesn't know where to go. What I've done, I've got so far is to get it that if you go there, it says beginning drop, but it doesn't seem to always end the drop. I think I've got the wrong event there. That's a part I've got working, that it just shows it's there, but I wanted to still try it out back on the table. Maybe we should do that quickly while we add it here. Anybody who's got ideas can always chime in and give me a direction. But what I've done is, to make it work so far, on the page load, we create a drag and drop event, and I think entering it shows, but when you're leaving it doesn't work. So it could be, say, I don't know, is it end drag over? What did we tried there? Come on.
What about the drag drop? Wasn't there a drop? Did you?
Yeah, drag. No, drag drop triggers the drop code. I want to pick up the when you enter the drag zone and when you leave the drag zone. That's the part what I want to get working.
In drag.
So there's in drag. Let's try that. But and then save it, and then let's just give it another run, just to quickly see if it works. Ah, come on, wrong screen. Let's just get the stop it and just. Get the file again, and at the moment it shows nothing, and as I drag it across begin, but when you move away it doesn't. I haven't figured out what's the moving away, but I'm sure it's one of those which will then show it moved away. Come on. So this one also doesn't work. So let's just put it there that we don't get confused. Drag and drop. The begin drag. Enter sounds like when it goes start, leave. We've tried over. Should be over. Could be over. Let's try the over. Give it a run for the money.
I just do a loop and try them all.
Okay, and just drag it again. End drop.
Hey.
It ended, but it doesn't.
Did it start?
Yeah. Now you don't have a begin.
Yeah, no, it doesn't give a begin.
I think that's because you're getting. I think they're over there means mouse over the area.
Could be. See, and that's my issue that I've got. And the other issue we've got, just to go back, that's the one thing. The other thing, you activate. That's why I put the static back into it again, because when you go to description and you put it there, you have to have these two things, which says source and target. Whereas the table, you do not have the drag and drop capability on it. There is none. But subsequently, I found out, which I haven't got back to it, but maybe we want to do it now. If you go into the static section, we can actually define the target and say it works programmatically. If you do not put this in, it doesn't trigger your drag and drop event function. Basically, this one in the beginning which I set, this one, it doesn't trigger it at all. Okay. So you have to program it and say you're programmatically doing it. Otherwise, WinDev does all these things in the background for you, and you've got no functionality in that you can take over. So the trick is to actually get the target set as a program. There is other options also here. What you can do is, just to show you quickly, is drag and drop, auto, inactive, and program. So you can test it if you have an active drag and drop. Then it will come back as auto or programmatically. That means auto, that means drag. WinDev, by the seams, is when you tick the box in your 7-tab thing in your details section, you tick it, then the target, it will be then the auto. If you do the programmatically, the drag and drop functions kick in and allows you to do some code behind it. With the auto, WinDev does most of the functionality automatically. And inactive means you don't have any drag and drop on target on that particular component or the control. Making sense? Okay, so I was going to try doing the same here and just see if we can get it onto the actual table and see if the table actually will do the story. Because we want to get a table because that is intuitively the right place to have it. But it doesn't take it. It's not happy with that. No, it does. Let's see. No, it doesn't. No, I've got it spelled wrong. Of course it won't work then. There, you see. Product. It doesn't want to take it. So it's not happy with the table. It won't compile. So that's the issue we've got, that certain things doesn't want to. So the other thing what I did eventually is went back and then created what they call a cell around it and tried to put it in its save, and then it broke the code. It didn't upload it and nothing worked then. So we kind of a catch-22. Some things work, other things don't. And that's where I'm at the moment. Unfortunately, my other work during the week took most of my time. Would you believe it? Somebody's server room was broken in and stuff was stolen, so they had a big issue.
So you're messing with the average of 10 times faster.
Yeah, that's what basically is. I'm sure there's a way around it, but I haven't got to it. I've only spent about a few bits and pieces of time here and there. If I had a bit of more time, I probably got down to it. But at the moment, this looks promising to me. If I could get this static to show it's coming in and out, we can make the static bigger or another kind of target area, and then we can show it that's where you can drop it. And then we can take it from there and see with other objects. What I've done is I've looked at the functionality of this over here. This is what they show is what you can drag and drop, and there's certain other variables you can add to it, which I haven't kind of figured out from the Fringlish, as you guys always put it, but I think it's variables which once the procedure what triggers this event, you can use these variables to pick up if the guy what's the mouse position in the screen in that area, etc., and what's the target control if the source is the recipient. You can see who was a target control, so you can even figure out which source control is passing the information across, from what I can read and understand. Okay, I haven't played with it, but that's what these variables are for once you get that procedure running in your D&D event procedure. The thing is to get it working. This I picked up just yesterday evening on that you have to kind of activate the programming side of it for this to be managed by the developer, and that's why I couldn't get it going for whatever reason, because it was not activated from a program that the control can be managed by the developer, whereas the others seem to be, what I understand, is WinDev's way of automating it all for you, and that's where I'm at.
So you're saying that you can do this with WinDev, but the same thing
Yes.
that you can't do it in WebDev.
WinDev, I'm quite. It works quite nicely in a sense, because you don't. The problem is what you don't understand, what you don't realize. WinDev is everything happens there where you are. The problem is WebDev. You got the server side and the browser side, and some things, like example, over here. If you look over here, this is set in the browser. Okay. Right. And yet, if you look at this one over here, set in the server. So in a sense, it doesn't. You have to be careful what you do where and when. If you try to do the D&D target property setting in the browser, it just doesn't work. It won't allow you. So you have to also figure out where and what is allowed in different sections. Which makes it a bit more difficult. WinDev, everything happens in your window. You don't have to worry, is it the browser side or the server side? Okay, and that's where the catch is a bit.
No, I'd be kind of curious how you do that too. I mean,
I'm not up to speed. I'm still learning a lot about HTML and cascading style sheets and Java and all that type of thing in the background. There's a lot of stuff which I don't know. I've been a desktop application programmer for most of my life, and I've been trying it the last 3 years, getting into web development. Yeah, it's a different cup of tea. And I think Pete has been stressing the fact also, and even from the client side, if you talk to Bruce and that, they'll tell you, be careful, there's a browser and a server. That's where the gotchas are, and most of the time. And you kind of, the two is not kind of talking to each other in a real sense. You can't just post something from one to the other. You have to kind of do a communication as if you're talking through a modem. Remember the old days when you talked with a modem to something. That's the way I view it. It's like a modem communication. One says something, the other one says something, and they agree on the protocol and they talk to each other basically. And that's what this is all about. I think we tend to forget you can't just say disable from a server. You have to kind of use Ajax or something like that to do things between the two. And WinDev does a lot of it, as you can see. This is WinDev property what you set in the server side, but yet it makes it work in the browser, because ultimately it's a browser what gets the target of the drop. The server at this point, when this is happening over here, it doesn't know about it, because it's actually happening in the browser. So if you look over here, it's in the browser again. So when you eventually do the drop and whatever, and you end up firing this code, it's all in the browser, and the server doesn't know nothing about it.
So does it matter what the target is to drag it?
It does, because if you look at the documentation, somewhere, let me just find it again. It tells you which, there you go, which things you can set up. And what gets me, there is no table here specifically mentioned. And that's the reason why the table...
yeah, which makes you wonder how in the world it worked at all.
The reason why it's working, I'll tell you why it's working, because you're using a special control. It's called the upload control, and you are telling it, go to the table. The table itself is not the trick. This control is it's a button, but it's a special control. So there's a bit of magic which WebDev does in the background, which allows now the table to work as a drop control. But from any other point of view, from the information everywhere else, which if I try and make it a target by programming and saying, like I did with the static, saying this equals D and D, programmatically do it, it doesn't accept it, because as you can see, nowhere does it say it accepts the table. Okay.
Well, isn't that what a list box is?
No, a list box is a different thing from a table. As far as I know, a list box is, there's a list box, and that's a table. List box is different.
Oh, okay. List box is like the
as a combo.
Always drop down.
That's it. So there you go.
But didn't you have the upload control in that list? I mean, don't you just drop it in there and then transfer?
Yes, you do. Yes.
But it doesn't work to drag it there.
Let me just...
No, it does. It's just...
There it is.
That all works. It's just we want to take control of it so that, you know, he can do
his thing.
Extra things on those drag and drop events.
Yeah. That's solid, yeah. Because once I get that happily working, then we can start fiddling around making, because I've got the code, we kind of reverse engineered Google's way of doing it, and it's quite simple actually. If I can just find a note I made. All it does is, in Google, if you go and look at it from a point of view, they've got div elements, and they also gave it unique IDs, and all it does is it tells you, okay, display none, and you remove the display none and it pops this little box around it, this div section. There's a div which says drop files. This is actual in the HTML or HTML. Yeah, I'm getting my acronyms wrong. HTML, this is in the HTML which says there, it's all the time there, but the class itself is AC7 ID. And then when it gets to the AC7, oh wait a minute, the element style, that's the style over here, and the div, it says display none, so it will not show it.
Well, it's AC9 when you get down to the drop area though.
Yes, but that is where it actually does the border spacing and the positioning and the centering, and then that section over here, I don't know why they've got multiple divs. I think it's just, I don't know, whatever reason they have it, but basically it overrides the one to the other. But at the end of the day, what it does is it picks up this border, and it's 4 pixel dash, and that's a whitish funny border around it, and the table cell and the opacity is 0.8. That's why you can half see what you've written really in your email when it says drop here and things like that, and a vertical text alignment is centered. Okay. So that is, this part doesn't bother me so much. Sorry?
You might be able to go back over to the table to the description of the table.
Yeah.
Go into the 7-tab interface.
Yes, I'm there.
I think
the content. One of these.
Content.
No, it's one of these.
There's somewhere where you can do, your own HTML code.
Yes, and it's not all of them, by the way. Only certain ones can do before and after. And I think a cell can do it, but I don't think HTML does it. No, it doesn't. But if you've got a cell, you can do it. Not all. I've had a look at that also, and that's the whole point. And it's usually, I think it's advanced. There we go. That one has.
Right.
Before and after. Then you can dump it in then.
Yeah, I was thinking you might be able to.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And then you tick this box which says it must still generate even if it's invisible. So you can have control of it. But the problem is not all controls, as you can see, it's got that in. Okay. Although the controls itself, if you go to the styles over here, you can define, somewhere you can define, I can't remember where it is again. Where is it now? You can do.
I think it's the style.
I think it's a style. Yes, I think it's a style.
The ellipse.
I think it's more options. There we go. There are your more options. There you can then customize your CSMS. Which I want to still mess around, but I haven't got to that yet. So yeah, there you go. That's as far as I got. So the drag and drop at first didn't want to work because we didn't do the one little trick to actually tell it to allow us programmers to do the low level stuff.
So is this something you could shoot to support and they can tell you? Or they don't answer that type of questions?
I don't think they'll answer because it's like a, I don't know, it's not a bug or anything in a sense. I don't know.
Well, my experience is it depends on which way the wind's blowing that day.
Well, can't you say? Yeah, I see what you're saying, because they're going to tell you that WebDev is different than WinDev, so it's not going to be the same.
Yeah, yeah.
But they might point you
to the first thing they'll tell you. Yeah. The first thing they'll tell you, as anyone that has ever submitted anything to support will attest, first thing they're going to tell you is, can you submit that in a project?
Yeah.
That's like an auto response for them.
Mm-hmm. So you just do it in the first place.
Anytime you're submitting something to support, create a little project and submit with it. Otherwise, you'll get nowhere with it.
Yeah, in a way, I can understand why they do that, because I've done it before.
A Gene video with it. I did that, and they seem to accept that Gene video also.
Okay. Yes. I can understand why they ask for that, because it's like taking a car and say it's faulty, and you don't tell you actually want the boot fixed. Then the technician works on the bonnet the whole time, under the bonnet, and thinking the engine is faulty. So there's so much to this topic surrounding the drag and drop. I think that's the reason why they want a project or something, or a Jing, which shows explicitly. It's like your end users, if they just say, this screen doesn't work, you also want to have more information. And I think that's the crux about the whole thing, and support as such.
Right. Yeah, it's understandable.
Yeah,
it's a tough job trying to figure out what programmers are doing.
Yeah.
Trust me. I spend a lot of my time trying to figure out what other programmers are doing.
Okay, any suggestions in a direction I can look in to make it go quicker and happen?
We appreciate you working on that, Wolfgang, and I think you're pretty close. I think you can.
Yeah, I just
can get it.
Frustrated because I feel I'm there, but I'm not. I just didn't get enough time to get to it because. The 2 nights in a row I've been running till 3 in the morning because of that guy's server room was broken in and stolen out. So
okay.
I'm a bit I'm a bit tired still from the early mornings. It's kind of messed my whole week up, kind of thing.
Understood.
Well, thanks for
Hey, one last question.
Oh. Yeah.
One last question. Andy, does your pickup truck have a bonnet?
Bonnet? No.
Yeah, he said bonnet on my take your vehicle to the.
I got a hood.
The repair and yeah, he said that he might spend the whole time working under the bonnet. I was pretty sure you didn't have a bonnet on your truck.
I can pretty much bet that no Texan would ever say bonnet and pickup truck, almost even in the same sentence.
Unless they ran over a blue bonnet flower.
That may happen. They could say, I ran out in the field and ran over a bunch of blue bonnets with my truck.
That's the closest. But that's the closest.
No. Bonnet
no, they run over palms.
Don't go together at all. That's just not even
armadillo.
Right.
I'm not saying anything further.
I wish you guys would learn the English language.
That's what the English here say the same with American language.
And that makes a difference. That's how.
Right. They may have invented it over there, but we perfected it when we got over there.
That's right. We took the best words from all the languages.
Okay.
So I think I'll just report. I think I'll report back to Mama that what I learned on WinDev Live today is what a bonnet is.
I tell you what, I'm the worst person to argue with because I'm a half English, Afrikaans, and then English and German also included. So, yeah, don't ask me about English. I just talk it the way I do.
Well, I watched enough of the Top Gear, the English version of Top Gear, the UK version of Top Gear. I know what a bonnet is.
Okay. Yeah.
All right. Thanks, Rob, for clarifying. Okay, thanks. We will talk to you guys Sunday, right, Andy?
Yeah,
thanks,
absolutely.
Guys.
We're going to go over the web services that I've already put up, and the source code is out for the web services. We'll probably do some more adjustments to that. I've also moved the Chatterbox to version 18. So we will be using version 18 to review the Chatterbox and how we've implemented those web services into the Chatterbox. Okay? So even though I don't have the web service in 18 as yet because I haven't upgraded my server up there with the with the WAS 18 version, it is going to run on 17, and we're going to implement that in 18. And you'll start seeing version 18 type code and screens and things like that. One of the cool things I ran across on version 18 I thought was pretty neat was they now have pop-ups off of buttons, so you can select a button and have it on the ribbon basically do a drop list of different items off the button. We'll be looking at doing that too, which is I think that's a pretty cool feature. Myself, I think it's slick, and so there'll be a few things that we're going to go over. We're definitely going to go over the web services, so those that have been already signed up and got the source code for the web services, if you have questions on what the heck are you doing here and there, make sure you get those questions on your list for Sunday, and we will go through there and deal with it. And then we'll get into how, some of the screens and stuff, because the Chatterbox had been out before, but I'm trying to upgrade it to use this methodology. And we'll discuss what we're going to do with this, with some of the Chatterbox screens and things like that, and show how we're implementing the code in there. And then we'll be off and running, and we're starting to release code on the screens. And at that point, I think that Pete is starting to look at a design criteria for the web version, and now that he has version 18 of the web, we'll be starting to work on both of those.
Great, thanks.
Other than that, be good or be good at it.
Talk to you all later. Stop in the